Hello and welcome to the new and improved first episode of the Koptic Kave. And I am pleased to introduce somebody who's not only an IDF veteran, he's not only one of Southern Florida's finest realtors. Please hit him up if you're looking to buy or rent. But I'm lucky enough to call this dude a friend. But now the tables have turned. Instead of him interviewing me, I'm interviewing him. So, Rafi, please tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for having me. Mike Mikhail,
Yes, sir.
to be exact. Dude, it's such a pleasure, man. I'm so used to having you on the guest side of things, so it's really, really awesome to be a guest on yours, and it's an honor to be the first.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So in terms of myself, just to make it short and brief, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Was raised by a Jewish grandmother, single Jewish grandmother. Got my college degree at Brooklyn College. Served as a combat soldier in the Israeli military. Served in the West Bank during my service. Not long after that, I moved to South Florida, became a realtor, started my podcast, and here we are.
What made you want to start your podcast? And how long has it been on? Have you been doing it for?
Been doing the podcast for about 5 years.
Okay, cool. And what made you want to start it?
First, it became deep discussion. I love to have deep discussion. I've always been that way. I've always been what my buddies growing up used to call the DMC King, deep, meaningful conversations.
Okay, all right.
So that was, I would just, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. You know, I've always been that way, man. I guess I was raised by an old soul. So I've always preferred deep discussion over mundane small talk. I definitely could enjoy small talk. I know how to. I really do have a childish side, but my nature leans more toward deeper discussion. So I just had this hunch, man. I had this feeling to start a podcast 5 years ago in 2020, and my roommate at the time, Yoni Ackerman, I got to give him a shout out. Still a great friend of mine. He said, dude, why don't you just get the equipment and do it? And I started. He was my first guest, and I haven't looked back ever since.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I didn't know you had it for 5 years now, so that's pretty interesting because that means when you started it, it couldn't have been like, I mean, did you start it with Israel in mind, or was that something that developed later because of the war?
I was covering it prior to October 7th, but it became much more of a focus after October 7th.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Man, you've had some incredible guests on, bro. People that I know, some people that I know personally, some people that I, really look up to, like Mordechai, Dr. Annette Wilf, then, some of our mutuals that we know. It's just pretty dope, man. It's pretty dope. Do you have sort of like a favorite guest that you've had?
Obviously, this guy, Mike Gamal. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it really, you can't beat that, man. You can't beat that. You can't beat that. He's definitely up there. Who would I say is one of my favorite guests? For the Israel discussion, the Yishai episode really sticks with me. I think it was just a very, very powerful episode. The Annette Wolf episode was amazing. Really, all kidding aside, I've thoroughly, really much enjoyed the episodes that you and I have done together. I've done some great episodes. The Tommy Robinson episode was fantastic.
That was dope.
I mean, I've been really, really lucky to have had incredible conversations, and they've picked up traction. Not all of them get a ton of views, but the channel itself has grown to a fairly nice size, and we're growing little by little.
The thing that I enjoy the most about your podcast, man, is just like, and I'm not just talking from like personal experience from me being on there, but like I can tell like your guests feel comfortable. Like it's just like you can just say what you want, and I don't know, man. It's like a man's podcast,
That's what I like it to be, man. That's what I like.
Podcast, just podcast. I gotta say.
That's what I like it to be, bro. It's really I don't do all the. I'm not gonna show up in a 3-piece suit. I mean, maybe if I was talking to a world leader, I would definitely. If it was in person, I would dress nicely. But it's just real, man. I'm just myself, and I want other people to be themselves. Even if I disagree with them, even if I'm looking to make them look stupid, because it has happened where I'm debating somebody and I want to win that debate. But more often than not, it's a free space to speak your mind, you know?
Yeah. I mean, listen, man, when you provide a, comfortable environment like that, I think you get the best out of your guests. That's what I'm trying to bring to the table with this going on, the Coptic Cave. So we'll see if it lives up to my expectations, which are pretty modest right now, but I think I can gain some good traction with it. So let's dive into the.
Mike. I don't know why on my end your video looks very grainy.
It does?
Does it look that way on your side?
Nope.
Okay, so hopefully it won't come out. Okay, now it looks a little clearer. It just got clearer.
Okay, it might have
I don't
been.
know.
I don't know. Maybe it's the daylight.
Could be. Okay.
Yeah. So let's hop right into the discussion, man. It's tough time for diaspora Jews. We got the New York mayoral election right around the corner. I told you earlier about how there's this, CARE endorsed candidate for the West Orange, New Jersey Board of Educators. It just seems like diaspora Jews are besieged, man. And I was talking to some people on like what could possibly sway voters away from Mdani and all this like typical things that you and I would care about, like, jihadism, political Islam, stuff like that. There's like they don't care about it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what future do you see for the diaspora in America?
Well, I would say Florida is one of the best places. And I would say confidently, it's the best place, safety-wise, for the foreseeable future for Jews to live. And I don't just say that because I'm a realtor. I say that because it's obvious. It's so abundantly obvious, and I think most out-of-state Florida, most Jews that live out of Florida would very much acknowledge that, and they would say, "Well, I'm just not living in Florida because I grew up in such and such city, and I feel comfortable, and my family's here." But many of them would admit that Florida is the best place for Jews. I would argue Florida is the best place for Jews anywhere outside of Israel right now. Currently, it's safer even. So New York with Mamdani, I don't know. I don't know what there is to expect. But here's what I would say. I have another buddy, Mike. He has a show based out of Israel. He was also my friend who I grew up in New York with him, and he has a channel called Homebound to Eretz Israel, which basically is to push people to make Aliyah. That's really what he's looking to do with the channel, and he is a very high quality stuff. Does his own editing, very passionate about what he talks about. And his feeling with Mamdani is, you've seen these ultra Orthodox Jews meeting with Mamdani, saying that we don't really think he's a problem. We don't think he's going to get in the way of any of our goals or values regarding schools and religious institutions. We don't think he's against any of that. And my buddy Mike was saying, you might not feel it now. He might not go out of his way to cut funding, which I think eventually he will. But I think he'll stay out of the way when it comes to people who are purposely looking to cause problems to the Jewish community. So, for example, he might not order the police to go and hurt Jewish people in the Jewish community. But when there are people going and hurting people in the Jewish community, he might be like, well, it's not such a big deal. Let's not really worry about it. I'll handle it next time. We'll put more police presence next time. I think he'll kind of sweep it under the rug. And the Jews are going to tolerate it. They're just going to go along, and a lot of them are going to say, well, he said next time he'll handle it. It's a classic thing. They'll just trust him. Oh, I won't cut funding to schools. And let's say a school's getting, I don't know, just throwing out a number. Let's say a school's getting $200K a year, $100K. I don't know how much these schools get. I have no idea. Let's say for argument's sake $100K. He might say, you know what? You really don't need $100K. $70K is enough. We need to cut back a little bit. We need money for this and we need money for that. Before you know it, it's $50K, then it's $30K, then it's nothing. It's really, the government shouldn't be funding it altogether. It's a private institution. The community should fund it, which, I mean, just like with Israel, sometimes when you rely on the government too much, it has its consequences.
So that's actually like so about the Orthodox Jews that are, they're saying they don't really have a problem with Mamdani. From what I saw previously, and maybe I'm wrong about this, I thought it was like from like the Satmar or Satmar, maybe I'm mispronouncing that, Jewish community.
Something, yeah.
Was it them, or was it like a more mainstream Orthodox community?
No, I would say most of the ultra Orthodox and the Orthodox are probably against Mamdani. Most of the votes for Mamdani are probably coming from the secular liberals, but you do have certain groups of ultra Orthodox that are supporting. Probably Satmar. I don't want to assume. I don't want to just throw labels. I would say the majority of Orthodox Jews in New York are pro-Trump, are conservative, and probably don't trust Mamdani. That's my guess. So it's not Orthodox voting for Mamdani and secular voting for Cuomo. It's very much the secular reform, maybe a bunch of conservatives. They're usually the pick-me Jews
I
are
see.
more so
I see.
voting. Yeah.
I mean, how often do you go back to New York?
Yeah, not so often. Now that my grandmother passed, I mean, I don't really have as much of a reason.
I see. May your memory be a blessing for you, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
What do you notice? Like, 'cause when did you leave New York?
It's about 6 years now.
6 years. And so you've had the experience of living in both areas, the New York and Miami. Growing up, did you experience like any anti-Semitism? Did you see it in New York? And what would you say is the difference between what you saw out there, if there was any, and what you see today?
Never personally experienced anything that was targeted at me. The only thing I can remember, and that was maybe because I was a smaller kid at the time, and I was religious, and I was walking to a friend on Shabbat. I was a kid at the time. I must have been 13, 14 maybe. These three public school kids kind of like walked up to me while I was walking. And I was scared. In my mind, I was scared, but I just kept walking and I kept a straight face. And one of them said, "Oh, he ain't scared of us," and then they walked away. And I was scared of them, but I just didn't show it. So that was probably I mean, then there was a time when I was a waiter after the army, and a guy was outside of this synagogue I was working at. And he was going off about how the Jews shouldn't be in the land and da-da-da-da, and so I lost my shit. But that wasn't. I just started yelling at him. I was screaming at him, and then one of his buddies just kind of. It was in the street. One of his buddies just kind of like took him away, and that was pretty much it.
You said you come from Bukharian descent, right?
No.
No? I thought you did for some reason. I remember one time we were talking about, the toughness of Bukharian Jews.
Yeah, no, they are tough people, but I'm not, and I have much love for them. I'm just not Bukharian at all. No.
Okay.
No, I'm an Ashkenazi Jew, Mike.
All right.
Yep.
Listen, the temple that I go to semi-regularly, it's all Ashkenazi, so ain't nothing but love for the Ashkenazi community.
I listen. I shit on them all the time. I'm not gonna lie. I shit on them all the time. I love them. We're all Jews. But I shit on Ashkenazi Jews all the time because this conflict is exposing some issues. Like it's exposing some problems.
Well, that brings me to my next
one.
question.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless if they're Ashkenazi or Mizrahi or Sephardic, right now, do you see a noticeable disconnect between Israeli and diaspora Jews?
That's an interesting question. It would be I think it would be a much better question to ask somebody living in Israel, but I think most Israelis are so disconnected from what Jerry Goldstein from fucking Cherry Hill, New Jersey is thinking, or what who's voting for. Like, they just don't care. They're like, whatever. Jerry Goldstein, who's this guy? Okay. Is he in the army? Oh, he's in the, okay, yeah. Whatever. They don't really, I don't know. They don't really care. I think there's much more connection, Mike. I think diaspora Jews and Israeli Jews, for the most part, are much more connected due to October 7th and the Gaza war. But I think there's, like I said, again, the liberal Jews, the staunchly liberal Jews, they don't want to be associated because it hurts their image. It hurts their soft little image, and God forbid anybody dislikes them. They just want to be loved by everybody. You beautiful, adorable little people. Just everybody. I don't want you. You don't like me. I don't want you not to like me. Oh no. You're not gonna like me. What are we gonna do?
I gotta say, man, that's the worst mindset to have, is to want to be liked by everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because what do you stand for if you want to be liked by everybody? It just
Nothing.
means you're very,
People.
that means you're very malleable. And so, when you served in the IDF, what made you like? Because I'd imagine a lot of people who go serve in the IDF, it's sort of a decision that they make on the way to making Aliyah. What made you come back to the States as opposed to staying out there?
It's a good question, man, and it's sometimes I still think about it from time to time because there's a solid part of me that would love to just live there. I feel like in a way I should be living there. It almost feels I have moments where it feels wrong to me. I say, am I supposed to be in Miami, Florida? My people are going through all these things and the lows and the highs, but there's something about Israel where when I'm in Miami, as much as I enjoy it and as much as it has opportunities that Israel doesn't have, I'll drive through Miami and I'll say to myself, should I stay here? Not because it's not great, it's a great life. Sometimes I wonder, sometimes I think to myself, should I really be over there? And I'm hoping that eventually I will be. I'm hoping that I'll eventually take the necessary step. A lot of it's economic, honestly. I grew up in the States. I'm used to it here. It's very convenient. In a place like South Florida or any major city, if you really work hard, there's tremendous opportunity. And Israel does have a good economy, and I do think Israel's going to do a lot better in the coming years. I think Israel's really going to have a golden age because the young generation they're so formidable. They're very resilient. They just went to war for 2 years. The young generation is going to be so much more impressive than many of the Americans their age. And I think Israel can do incredibly well, especially if it gets off of the tit of the U.S. with all the aid and the military equipment. The more self-sufficient Israel becomes, I think, the more spectacular it'll be. And I'd like to think that once I can build myself financially to a really strong place where I can make money, regardless of where I live, even if I'm not loaded, even if I don't have tens of millions of dollars, but I can live comfortably. I would love to. I would buy a house there right this second. But I want to buy something nicer. I don't want to buy like a dinky little house. But I would love to. I wish I would do it right now. I would just buy a house, even if I wasn't there all the time, and I travel there a couple of times a year. But I definitely, regardless, owning property there is a huge thing for me. So,
yeah, no, I heard about them house prices in Israel. They ain't no joke.
No, they're not. But dude, I mean, if you have the money, it's a beautiful life. Beautiful life, especially if you live in the West Bank and you're willing to put up with those risks. I mean, some of these settlements are beautiful, man. You live on the mountains, and if you have the money, you buy a real legit house. You build a really nice looking house. Go out on your balcony, you have a coffee, you see the Judean hills, the West Bank. There's nothing like it.
Man, I can only enjoy what I see in the pictures, but that's going to change sometime soon. I'm hoping next summer I'll be able to visit. Springboarding off that, because you did mention Israel sort of, weaning itself off of American assistance. What would you say is the biggest challenge for Israel ahead?
Oh my God, the biggest challenge ahead right now is what's going on with J.D. Vance and Trump saying that they're not going to allow Israel to annex the West Bank. That's a massive, massive problem. This is the one thing Israel needs to do. This is the make it or break it moment, and I think Israel's going to fall short. I think Israel's going to fuck it up. And because they're relying on the U.S. and Trump is saying, I made a promise to the Arab countries, they're not going to do it. This is a prime example of why Israel loses out. Yes, they get the money. Yes, they get the weapons. But if we can't actually accomplish the most important part of the mission, it's all for nothing. No thanks. It's like, if you give me a beautiful new car, but the brakes don't work, thanks so much. I mean, I appreciate the car, but the car, like, what good does it do if it's going to drive me off a cliff? I'm glad you gave me a gun to defend myself, but when I pull the trigger, it shoots me in the face. Like, it doesn't, like, yeah, we accomplished goals during the war. We killed a bunch of major terrorist leaders, but then we had to free 2,000 terrorists. Now we pulled out of 50% of Gaza. All of these groups are going to rearm again. We essentially, I mean, we started to heal the wound. We really were doing a lot of work healing the wound. And then the U.S. government was like, oh, you healed enough. Let's put the Band-Aid back on. And we're like, we're not really finished yet. They're like, oh, well, we said you're finished, so you're finished. And we're like, okay. What's going to happen? The wound's going to get infected again. We're going to have to fucking clean it again. It's just over and over and over. This is where the Israeli government, the Israeli people have to say, at some point, enough is enough. If we're not willing to do that, we're nowhere. And this is the Israeli government needs to right now start to figure out how it's going to become more self-sufficient. And if it doesn't become more self-sufficient, if it wants to keep doing this, keep relying on the United States, we're going to find ourselves with more hostages in the future. We're going to find ourselves with a new barrage of rockets in a couple of months. We're going to have Hamas 2.0. We're going to have Hezbollah or a similar group on the Lebanese border. We're going to have all sorts of problems going forward. So if Israel doesn't have the balls to annex the West Bank, then there's not much to say, man. I mean, we're just going to be in the same boat.
And that's what you would say is sort of the ultimate mission, right? So to extend Israeli sovereignty over Judea and Samaria and Gaza?
It has to be. It has to be. It has to be. Trump is either... As much as I like Trump, there's either two reasons why he's not doing this. Either two reasons why. Maybe three, but two reasons I can think of is either he wants the conflict to go on so people can profit, the people who want to profit off the conflict, which there are quite a bunch that are making money off of this conflict. So he understands that ending this conflict or largely ending it would take away from a lot of people's pockets. And then B is he really just doesn't understand the fucking problems going on. And I don't know, I just don't really think it's the latter. I'm kind of convinced that it's the former. I'm kind of convinced that, yes, he wants a peace, but this is kind of an easier way to get there. Meaning, temporary peace during my term is good enough for me. It makes me look good. So when I leave the Oval Office, I brought peace. I can't say what's going to happen after, but I did what I thought was good, and they stopped fighting. But that's not... Very quickly, it'll turn into more violence. And
would you say it's sort of like a, premature mission accomplished moments, similar to the one that like George W. Bush had with the Iraq War, and within like the first year when he was on the aircraft carrier and he, said mission accomplished, basically we won the war?
Right. I mean, I think so. I think it's just his way of closing the book, but the book isn't closed. He's trying to force the book shut. He's trying to sit on the book, but as soon as he gets off the book, it'll flop back open again.
I mean, you said something interesting, man. You said that there's, people profiting off this, and that maybe they just want to, they don't want the closure that the conflict really requires to achieve real peace. A lot of people would say that's saying the quiet part out loud. I was not expecting to hear that.
Why? Why weren't you expecting to hear that?
I don't know. I always thought of it as Trump is a very transactional person, right? Like Trump is sort of like, he's sort of a don, you don't get something for nothing. Right. And if he's going to do something for you, he definitely wants something in return. And I'm sure that's the case with, almost every U.S. president we've had, but it's more emphatically the case with Trump. One of the things I don't like about this deal, and Michael Oren actually highlighted it recently in an interview he did. He highlighted the fact that, these quote-unquote peacekeeping forces, they've always been used as a mechanism for the other side to rearm. We saw how Hezbollah did it in Lebanon with the peacekeeping forces there. And now we might see it in Gaza again with this sort of multinational peacekeeping force with Azerbaijani forces, Egyptian, and who else? What is it? Is it Turkish? I mean, that to me is a recipe for disaster, man. That's a recipe for disaster, especially considering how the smuggling routes came from Egypt. Mm-hmm. They weren't monitored. I know that I thought they were monitored well in the past, but the amount of shit that they were able to smuggle into Gaza. I mean, some of these tunnels you could have fucking smuggled cars and motorcycles through them.
Absolutely.
So, do you think like after the war, the October 7th and the war that followed, that Israelis will sort of have that psychological readiness for another multi-front war? Because that's what this was. It was a multi-front war.
No doubt. No doubt. Most Israelis are. I think they just accept it. Most Israelis they're so fed up with it. They're just like, what else is new with our stupid government? No matter who we vote in, in a sense they like Bibi, but they're just like we don't. I think Israelis are just kind of. I give them so much. I give my people, man, so much. So much. What's the word? I honor them so much because all their efforts sometimes are just so unappreciated and so wasted, and nobody cares. Nobody cares, man. These parents lose their loved ones to war. Their 18-year-olds go to war, go to battle for. It's like, and it's it's necessary to have the IDF and all, but we always fucking put the Band-Aid. Everything's just Band-Aid. I'm hoping I get to talk to Bibi and just look him in the eyes and be like, are you going to be the leader to do it? Like, congratulations. I'm literally going to call him out. I'm going to say, listen, congratulations on killing these enemies, on Nasrallah and all that. You deserve tons of credit for that. But, I mean, what are we doing now? We're just going to give Gaza back we're going to let a bunch of countries run Gaza on our border? What are we doing? Are we gonna do what we need to do, or are we gonna let Trump dictate what we do? He's clearly not doing what's in our best interest. He's doing what's in our best interest short term. He'll do some things that make us happy, but when it comes down to the most important integral parts of this, he's not allowing us to do them. And the fact that he has the ability to allow or not allow, it says a lot. Says a lot.
I mean, I do see that like back and forth with him. Like it's sort of like a flip-flopping thing right now. I got to be honest, man, with like, because we've had, a number of incidents since the ceasefire deal was signed. And every time something comes up, he says, he makes some sort of like, I got to be honest, it's sort of like a half-assed threat. Like, oh, well, if Hamas doesn't do this, we're going to, do this for them, we're gonna wipe them out and shit like that. But like I don't really see like the will for the follow through on that, man. I gotta be honest. I feel like by now it had like, if Trump weren't a factor, Israel would have gone balls in again. Do you agree?
Right. I do, yeah. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But the truth is, it all stems from the fact that Israel doesn't trust itself to do what it did in 48, 67, 56. It doesn't trust itself to take care of its enemies like it used to.
You don't think so?
And if it did, it wouldn't allow America to dictate terms the way it does. Israel has gotten too comfortable with American support, and it's weakened it. Yes, the Israeli army is more powerful than it used to be. It is more technologically advanced. It is better funded. Yeah, the army itself is much more capable than it was in the earlier years of Israel. But the mentality is weaker. The mentality of how we operate is weaker because we say, well, worst case scenario, America will help us out. It's a big problem because America understands and says, well, we don't want you taking sovereignty over Judea and Samaria. And then we listen and we don't do it. And what does that tell our enemies? It tells our enemies, well, if we can get the Americans to say no to the one thing that Israel needs to do, we're good, we're golden. So all that has to happen is the Arab countries that have a peace treaty with the United States and or Israel will make sure to push the American government to not allow Israel to do the exact things Israel needs to do.
It's ironic.
Don't let them annex Gaza. Okay, Arabs, we won't let them annex Gaza. Beautiful, great. Now the conflict continues. Fantastic. And why do they want the conflict to continue? Because most of these Arab countries are not trustworthy allies whatsoever, and they're Muslim, and they just want to conquer Israel, and they've gotten smart about it, and they do it through much more, what's the word? Help me out here. Instead of doing it directly through jihad, they do it through dialogue. They do it smartly. They do it in a sly way. They do it very eloquently. Well, for the sake of peace, we want peace. So taking sovereignty wouldn't be good. It wouldn't give Palestinians a state. The Arab world knows that the two states doesn't work. Of course they know. Of course they know. When Qatar and Saudi Arabia are like, oh, but we needed two states, Palestine, two states. Bullshit. Bullshit. They know the deal. They know exactly what's up. It's the West, the Americans who are like, well, they're right. We should have two states. That's what the Arabs are saying. Ooh. But nobody's stupid. Nobody's stupid here, Mike. No one's really stupid here, Mike. That's the truth.
Nobody is stupid, man. I always say they might be crazy, but they are not stupid.
It's all a game. It's all a game. Everyone knows what's going on. Like, meaning all the leaders, it's all just a question of who's going to be able to accomplish what.
Mm-hmm.
Bibi and the Israeli government know two states is not going to bring peace to Israel. The Palestinians know that two states is not the goal. The Arab countries, Muslim countries know that two states is not the goal. We all know what the other one wants. We're just dilly-dallying and we're trying to talk a lot of bullshit to each other. The reality is the reality.
Recently you had Amir Avivi on your show. And man, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was one of your best episodes.
Really?
What do you, yeah, oh yeah. Like somebody like that, man, like, you know, if you could get also former ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, on your show, I think that'd be another great guest for you to have.
That'd be good.
You know, I read his One Jewish State book. I think it's phenomenal. But somebody like Amir Avivi, what are they most worried about that maybe the average Israeli or the average, you know, Jewish person in the diaspora might not be seeing right now? Because Israel's not a monolithic society. You have, you know, a left wing, a right wing. And when I say left wing, I don't mean like a sort of like a peacenik left wing. But, you know, they have differing opinions on how to solve the conflict and what to do to ensure Israel's security. What do you think he thinks?
Amir's actually very optimistic. He's more optimistic than I am. And I'm usually very optimistic. I know Israel's going to survive. I know they're going to make it. I know we're always going to figure out a way. I just hate the fact that we're playing this long game and it's not working. We just have to rip the Band-Aid off and just start putting fucking what do you call it? Help me out here. The alcohol, but the what's wrong with me? I'm tired. Putting on what the hell do you put on a cut?
Tincture?
Okay, I can't remember. I don't know what's wrong with me. My head is just...
Tourniquet?
No, not carbon dioxide. You put alcohol on. Anyway, I'm forgetting the other term for it. But anyway, it's just crazy that I'm forgetting. Anyway, the point is Israel needs to rip the Band-Aid off and start healing the wound. But it's not doing it. This is like the analogy I keep using because it's just so clear to me and it drives me nuts. So Amir Avivi understands what I'm saying, and I think he very much agrees with me. But he's saying, listen, Israel already has over 50% of Gaza in its hands. And according to what he seems to say, from what I understood from the episode, he's saying, don't be so worried. Like Israel has learned from their mistakes. They're not planning to be as easygoing and you could say malleable. I don't know if malleable is the right word, but they're not willing to be pushovers this time around. That's what his point was. Now, I'm just a little skeptical because history has shown quite a bit that Israel knows how to make some pretty dumb decisions. They make amazing decisions. They have incredible military victories. The Mossad does it. It's mind-blowing what Israel accomplishes. But then they'll do some really dumb shit. A lot. And so Amir is just basically saying, listen, the generation is going to bring a golden age to Israel. That was his quote. The economy is going to not only rebound, but just catapult. We have all this military technology that we're building and that has been built recently. We are planning on manufacturing a lot more in terms of our military industry, so we can rely less on the United States and do more trade. And I hope he's right. I hope that's the case, because if it is the case, then it'll be amazing. And I have no doubt. In just as a Jewish person, spiritually, that the Jewish people are always going to figure out a way. I just hate seeing these vicious cycles repeating. And you know, it's insanity. Insanity again, like Einstein says, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. So we got to do things differently. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere.
Well, you mentioned spiritually, and just from our conversations with each other, I know that you feel that there's a spiritual component to this battle, and more, I become convinced that there's definitely a spiritual component to this battle. Do you think the spiritual component to this battle is sort of, you see it the most in the universities, Hollywood, online spaces? Because, like, I was pro Pally, man. And I gotta say, like, it's just from like my history dealing with that stuff, I can say confidently, like, I've never seen anti-Semitism this fucking ugly. Like, it's just insane, the shit that I see, the shit that will be said to me, and I don't know, it feels like this isn't just a coincidence. Like, there's something greater at play.
It's hard to understand. I don't know. Anti-Semitism is an interesting thing. Uh, I think from a spiritual level, my grandmother used to say this, and I think it's very true. My grandmother says God sends Jews enemies to teach them that they're doing something wrong, to help remind them that they're doing something wrong and that they need to fix something or fix some things. And there's Judaism points to that as a very true point. I believe that Muslims exist almost completely in order to keep Jews on the right path.
Really?
I do, and I would say to an extent, Christians too, but I would say more so now because Christians have reformed. I think maybe that's less of a concept. But I do, yeah. I think the whole point is Muslims are saying, well, we are the new Jews. We are following God's laws. Why aren't you? So if you're not going to do the laws, if you're not going to be who you're supposed to be, then we have no reason to believe that we are wrong. Meaning the Muslims would say, we must be right because you guys are not doing what you're supposed to do. So if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, then I guess that makes us correct, which cancels you out and gives us legitimacy to fight and kill you because that's what the Quran says to do, because clearly you're doing a lot of things that are not Jewish, that are not what, that don't fall in line with Judaism. Not necessarily keeping, I'm not a very religious person, but I do, that's my own, issue to deal with, however religious I want to be and yada yada between me and God. But I mean just as the identity, having a strong identity, being loyal to your people, not being someone who's just Jewish as a fad, but connecting to it from an identity standpoint, to have it as part of your values. It's part of it's in your bloodstream. It's a vital, integral part of you. I think that in and of itself is so important. I think, the enemies of Jewish people are there to bring Jews back to that. Even if they're not necessarily the most religious people and they don't have payot side locks, and maybe they'll eat a non-kosher sandwich, or they'll whatever it is. They're not the most perfect. No one's perfect, but there's this identity thing that I think is so fundamental that I think God wants Jews to have. And you look at it from a logical standpoint. When Israel is faced with a terrible threat, what happens? People come together. People start to say, well, you're liberal, I'm right wing. We don't have time. We don't have the luxury of sitting here and debating each other and fighting each other. We have a much more serious threat than the two of us. We need to come together, put on our helmets, our guns, our gear, and get out there. We're brothers at the end of the day. But a lot of the time, that brotherhood isn't realized enough unless there's a real danger, a real threat, a real hatred. And so I think if Jewish people, as much as we do have a strong togetherness, a lot of us, especially outside of Israel, are not connected enough.
It's pretty interesting, man, because, I recently received Maimonides' epistle to Yemen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in it, in his letter to Yemen, he writes that, nobody has humiliated us and, harmed us more than, the Ishmaelite nation.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, he says that this is our curse from God, right? Like the Israelite nation are a curse from God. So it's kind of crazy how back then he was sort of saying the same stuff that you're saying right now, you know? And do you think that's why it's so fucking hard to like fight anti-Semitism? Because, you know, people always, you know, I will hear shit like it's a PR war, and I'm like, no, man, no, it's, you know, it to me it doesn't strike me as a information war, because you're dealing with, you know, like we have the facts, we can talk the facts all we want, but these motherfuckers are living in an empire of lies.
That's not, but you see, the problem is we're working backwards. The Jewish world is working backwards. We think that if we keep justifying, we're gonna solve the problem. I'm gonna say I'm gonna be a little unpolitically correct for just for argument's sake, but it is what it is. Men and women. Men, when they argue, usually argue with logic. Women also very much can argue with logic, but oftentimes their emotions get the best of them. So it doesn't matter if you use all the logic in the world. If a woman's not in a logical state of mind, she is not going to hear a single damn thing you say, whether no matter how logical it is. She wants to feel safe, validated, heard, understood, right? In a similar fashion, a lot of the people that hate Jewish people are not willing to listen to logic. They do not care how many sources you state, how many statistics you show. You can say the truest thing in the world. It doesn't matter. They are not willing to listen to it. Some are. Many of them are not. Many of them, in their minds, they've made up their minds. They want to listen to what Jackson Hinkle says, and what Nick Fuentes says, and what Myron Gaines says, and what Candace Owen. This is what I want to listen to. That's it. Period. Oh, you're just a Jew, just a pro-Israel. How much are you making? $7,000. I wouldn't mind the $7,000, by the way.
Real, nice. I bought all my books like a fucking schmuck. What an
I
idiot
know, dude.
am I, bro?
Dude.
I can need at least like a reimbursement check. Damn, you know?
Or get a Kindle at least, because you have nowhere to put those books eventually.
I'm legit running out of space, bro. I got books on the top of my closet right now. Books on my night. It's like, yeah, man, it's starting to take up space.
It's so amazing how you're becoming a weapon. It's amazing. You're soaking up every bit of information. It's crazy, dude. Like,
I have to, bro, because like the way I see it, bro, is like for me to be in this space, considering my history and like my, you know, ethnic background and stuff, is like I got like damn near zero margin for error. Like me more than anybody else, I feel like I have to know everything as much as I can know, and sometimes that puts decent amount of pressure on myself. But at the same time, like I have to be honest, man, I fucking love what I do. Absolutely love it. Like
me too.
You know, like it don't feel like work for me, man. Like people ask me like, how do you get on the bike at the gym and read? And I'm like, that's like the best time for me to read. You know, I kind of like zone out, and I can like, you know, it's easy to make 45 minutes on the bike go quick if I got a book in front of me. Because if I'm on the bike with just music in my headphones, man, that shit feels like torture for me.
Right.
On God, bro. And but yeah, it's, you know, it's that was a pretty good way for you to put it. It's that like these people on the other side, like they just want that validation. They just want to be heard, and you know, like that's why, like I always say, man, the things that they hate the most is being humiliated and being ignored, not being taken seriously. They can't stand that shit. They can't stand that shit. And I mean, what's your, like, we did sort of talk about it a little bit, but like what's your take on, let's say, Jewish outreach versus Jewish defense, like ideologically?
How do you
think
def-
no matter
how do you
what
def-
we're
how
in
do you
a,
define the two? How do you differentiate the two?
I guess like outreach would be a more proactive sort of, like maybe the Jewish people taking more of initiative to, you know, teach people, right? Like teach people about the community, teach people about Israel. Because I feel like, at least something that I noticed is, I do feel like the Israel advocacy space tends to only do these things when, you know, like as a defensive tactic, right? So once shit hits the fan, you know, actually one of my friends put it in pretty good terms. she says that she thinks that Israeli PR is often preaching to the wrong people. Like often, Israeli academics will preach to other Jewish people, other Jewish audiences, right? So that's why, like, she talked about this one dude, very well known. He wears a kippah, he's beard, speaks Arabic. I can never pronounce his last name. It ends with E. Um, Man, if I showed you his picture, you'd know. But they like, like he has books, right? But they're only in Hebrew. They're not in English.
Yeah,
So
that's pointless.
for me, like, somebody who obviously can't read Hebrew, at least not that well, like I would love to read his stuff, in English. And he has like a special where he went to like, I think Belgium, and he sort of like infiltrated these like, these Islamic networks.
Well, you could do, but it'll take you a while, is you can just take a picture of every page in ChatGPT, it'll translate it, but it's going to be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I ain't got that kind of time.
I know. It's good.
But
Yeah.
do you feel like, I don't know, a better tactic would be to like for Jewish people to assert themselves unapologetically?
For sure. I mean, listen, people are doing it. I do it. Tal does it. Sahar does it. Talia, that girl Talia does it. Jewish Dawa does it. Um, there's others. Who else does it? There's a bunch. Joseph Cohen of Israel Advocacy Movement, I believe it's called. The redheaded
British dude.
London. Yep.
Yeah,
He
yeah, I
does
like
it.
his stuff.
Mordechai Kedar does it. Einat Wolf does it. Einat Wolf is like, she's very eloquent and sweet, but she says what's up. We have our people that do that. And that's Hasbara needs to be offensive. It needs to be offensive and offensive.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be said the way it needs to be said. You want to deliver it in a nicer way? No problem, as long as the message gets delivered. You don't like to say things in a brash way? Fine. You got to say what needs to be said. It's going to be brash one way or another. You either say it balls on the table. Tal, for example, is very good at that. I believe I'm good at that too, but Tal does a lot more where he'll talk to like everyday people on Omegle and whatnot. I don't really do that. I really don't have the patience. Not even just patience. I feel to me it's hard for me to talk to these people that don't know anything and they don't have a platform. I want to debate with people that have large platforms because then I can hopefully get those points out to many people at the same time. Versus if I'm just talking to one person. Again, if I'm talking to a Joe Schmo that gets 200,000 views, then I am getting it in front of a lot of people. But it's exhausting talking to these like.
Yeah, that would be the outlier rather than
debates, doing debates like several times a week. Yeah, I don't know.
Most of these people are not good faith actors either. They're not really looking to, because for me, I'm always open to be proven wrong. Always open. Like, I don't think I'm wrong. I feel like I read pretty credible sources. I rely on, primary sources and all that. But the other side, man, like, I can say with full confidence with my experience with them, not interested in that shit. Mm-hmm. They're really not interested. If you could deliver one message to young Jews who, maybe aren't ready to assert themselves unapologetically, they're a little bit hesitant about that, what would you say to them?
Grow a pair of fucking balls, man. Grow a pair of fucking nuts, dude.
Get grow your nuts up.
You see the balls, grow the balls. Make them bigger. No, really, it's really as simple as that. How do you grow balls? You water them. You put your balls in a pot, in a nice little plant pot. I don't know. It's definitely not called a plant pot. Anyway, you take some water and you sprinkle the water and your balls grow. I think really, to put it simply, a lot of Jews in the States and other places, they need to fucking grow a pair. They need to grow a pair. It's a shtetl mentality, like I've said, and it's almost like non-Jewish. It's like, confrontation. We can't do that. That's not the way. That's not the Jewish way. Oh, I fucking hate it. Not to say that I'm against peace. Not to say that I'm against, it's beautiful to be a peaceful person. It's beautiful to try to seek dialogue before. I love the idea of trying to avoid violence if you can. But like when someone's stomping on your head and you're like, could we talk about it, please? Let's talk. And you just go, poof, poof, just getting pummeled. Please, why don't we have a conversation? Wouldn't it be more productive? It's like, I'm not interested in a conversation. I want to kill you. I'm like, but killing is so unnecessary when we can dialogue. Why don't we have a bagel and schmear first? Oh, boosh, 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 you know?
What do you think you could have done better in that situation, Moshe?
What'd you say?
I remember one time we were talking after we finished one of your episodes, and we were talking about, like, somebody getting their ass kicked and their friends fleeing and then coming back and be like, what do you think you could have done differently in that situation to avoid that? Oh, man, bro. Well, what does courage look like for Zionists in 2020?
By the way, I hope just to answer it a little bit deeper, I just think, because the growing up here, people always say, well, how do I grow up here? I'm a pussy. Excuse my French. Maybe if you want to, I don't know if you're cutting that out or not, but.
No, ain't nothing getting cut out of this.
Oh, there we go. Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah.
So someone might say, well, I'm a puss, and I don't know how to defend myself. I'm scared to. I don't want to get hurt. So to that, I would say there's a few options. Go through an experience that'll toughen you up. Learn a martial art, go to the military, start working out, do things that will make you a tougher person. Enter into confrontational circumstances. Put yourself in a position where being confronted isn't as scared for you. The reality, bro, realistically, it's just so abundant. And like Jews, we don't like to talk about these things. So much of why anti-Semitism is so strong is because it doesn't get enough pushback. It's not that other people aren't hated. It's not that black people aren't hated, Italians aren't hated, French people hate people. A lot of people are racist. A lot of people have disdain and racism towards other tribes. It's unfortunately, a very normal human behavior. A lot of people just, Cuban, that, they're so smelly, Indians, But the reality is, I'm not taking away the fact that there's an unnatural amount of Jew hatred, but there's also a knowledge and understanding that a lot of Jews, they don't really put up a fuss. They don't push back. They don't defend themselves. They don't speak up for themselves. They don't stand up for themselves. They're very easy to push around. They're very easily bullied. And so it's very easy to bully. It's very easy to hate somebody when it's easy to bully them. I don't care if you hate me, but if you're just going to hate me in the privacy of your own home because you're too scared to confront me, great. Okay, go hate me all you want. The moment you can come over to my face or you can start harming me and the people I care about, that's a problem. You want to just sit in your living room with your family and go, fucking Jews. Go ahead.
Do you think that's a problem here in the West with the diaspora community, is that they see what's going on in Israel and be like, well, that has nothing to do with me. I'm an American.
No doubt.
Yeah?
No doubt, because they're petrified of confrontation. They don't want to be aligned with a group of Jews that isn't afraid of confrontation. They say, they're causing me grief. Like this Ilana Glazer woman. You know who that is? The comedian, this American Jewish comedian.
She the one that she was on Comedy Central. She had like a show, right?
Maybe she's going to be in a movie now as a pregnant chick. I don't know, but she's a super liberal, pro Mamdani, the whole thing. This woman is the prime example of this. And her mentality is like, the Gaza war, killing. I don't want to. I just want to have my cushy life and make my money and be funny and la da dee, la da do. Fighting guns. No, I don't want to be associated with those Jews. I'm Jewish, but I'm not that Jewish. Let's chill. It
is a position of privilege.
Oh, it's a luxury belief, as Zainat says. But what it more so is it's a cowardice, and her way of looking at it is, well, why should I have to be associated with all of that terrible stuff on the other side of the world? And it's like, well, because the reality is you were born into the family, and you should be loyal to the family. It doesn't mean you have to support everything the family does. It doesn't mean you have to like everything the family does. But you're throwing the family under the bus because it's in between a rock and a hard place. And you just chose the easy way out because it's convenient for you. But you would very much come running and begging for help from from the family if you needed us. If America became unsafe and her comedy business was shut down because there was a new Nazi Germany in town, a new Adolf Hitler kind of guy in town, this same woman would come running to the Jews with the guns to help her. But now that it's convenient for her. Oh, but I'm New York and New York, New York.
We'll see about that after this motherfucker gets elected.
I understand her mentality. That's the thing, is like I've commented on her stuff, kind of trying to explain this to her. She's not gonna listen. She's just gonna write me off as some like crazy extreme guy. You know, she's not gonna, because it's foreign to her. She doesn't get it. She doesn't bother to. It doesn't matter to her. But she doesn't realize that she's doing a lot of harm for us by her trying to clean. She just wants a clean slate, or not a clean slate, but she wants her rap sheet to look perfectly crystal clear. I'm one of the good ones. Don't hate me. Hey, anti-Semitism. Don't point any of that shit to me, because I'm not the one. I'm not condoning any of the behavior of the IDF. I'm against it. What they're doing is terrible.
Isn't that fucking crazy that, like, you know, sort of like the association of being a bad Jew is, you know, to be the Jewish person who, you know, wants to be strong and not be weak, and, you know, not, you know, have a sense of deterrence. Like, hey man, if you come after me, I am hitting you twice as hard. It's crazy that that's the idea of the bad Jew.
It's crazy because Judaism very much fundamentally says, make sure to kill those before they kill you. Make sure to protect yourself. There's nothing. Judaism is not a pacifist religion. It's not. But the truth of the matter is the European Jews. When I say European Jew, I mean Jews that lived in Europe, Ashkenazim, developed this mentality. They did, and people don't like to say it. People like to avoid the discussion. They don't like saying it that way. Like, even when I brought it up with a not, they're like, well, it's more like the Soviet Jew. And I think she has a point. Like, Jews from the USSR are not necessarily like this, because they were living in, like, Tsarist Russia and communism. But, like, the Hungarians and the Polish, like, a lot of the Jews, that, you know, post-Holocaust or children of Holocaust survivors that lived in, like, the Warsaw Ghetto and lived among different little ghettos in Europe, they were very used to just always digging their head in the sand and just kind of hiding until the problem went away, literally and figuratively. And they've passed that idea down to their children, and generation after generation, it's always been like, don't cause waves, don't make noise, don't cause trouble. We're not strong enough. Like, don't cause a bigger issue than it is now.
When the other side sees you shrink, they get more confident.
100%, but the Mizrahi Jews don't really they don't have that issue. They don't have that issue. The Mizrahi Jewish mentality is with, you know, the Ashkenazi Jews that came and established Israel had very, very strong nationalistic ideas, and they were proud and all that. Those are the kind of people that came to the land, and they also were under an existential threat. They didn't have a choice. But many of the Jews that came to the States, that came to countries like England and things like that, over the course of time, they built very comfortable lives, void of much danger. You know, in the early 1900s, Jews in the States did face discrimination, like the early Italian immigrants. They were barred from certain businesses, and they didn't have it easy in the first generation or two. But over time, they developed very, very strong, affluent communities. And their children and their children's children and their children's children's children became very comfortable, very averse to any sort of physical harm. And then they can't handle it. They can't handle it. And but they're gonna have to eventually. You can't escape it. It's like a storm, dude. You either run away from it or you run through it. It's just the truth.
I think that's what moral clarity actually is, man. It's like, you know, what you said about
let me just get, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, you were saying?
Nah, I was gonna comment on what you said about sort of that, like, turn the other cheek shit being like a European mentality, right? Because I heard that also from, I always butcher his name, Inon from Jewish Dawa. Yeah, I heard him say it, and I was like, damn, this shit's true, actually. You know, I never thought about it like that, about like how, you know, those like super fringe ultra-Orthodox groups like, you know, Nutrikarta, like how that's how he labeled them, is like they're actually, you know, heavily influenced by a European way of thinking, is that our place is to be, you know, this vulnerable community. We don't, like, you know, try to fight for ourselves. Somebody else should be sort of our security guarantors.
It's a beautiful analogy. an analogy. There's a story, not a truth. It's a fable, but it goes. There's a Jewish man, and he's stuck out at sea, and maybe he's on a tiny little island or something. I forget exactly how it goes, but he's begging God to save him, and God sends him a raft. He says, "Nah." He goes, "Yeah, I don't need that raft. God's gonna save me." You already know where the story is going. Then God sends him a boat, and he says, "There's somebody on the boat. Nah, don't. No thanks, man. God's gonna save me." God sends a helicopter. Sends the helicopter. Well, it's not supposed to be God sends a helicopter. The point is that the boat comes, and he shoos the boat away. Then a helicopter comes. He shoos the helicopter away, and in the end, maybe it might be that he ends up dying. He ends up not surviving or something. And in the end, God says, "Buddy, I was trying to. What do you think I was doing? Like, what do you think I was? You have to do your part. You're just expecting me to come and bring my hand down to you so you can grab it. This doesn't work that way. Like, you have to do your part. This has been the truth throughout history. Like, this notion that we just sit there with our hands crossed and God's just going to take it. You have to do your part. So it's I don't know. To me, it's just so clear. Thank God. I mean, I've been blessed. I was raised by a strong woman. God bless her. I mean, she's no longer here, but she instilled these values in me, man. I owe a lot of that to her. She always instilled very strong values. That woman was tough as nails, very sweet. I mean, she had the sweetest soul, and she was very sweet to me, but also taught me these principles. Like she taught me principles of just standing up for yourself, and she was the last person who believed in pacifism when it wasn't the right time. She wasn't. I mean, I wouldn't say she was very much a pacifist in general, but she was a peaceful person. She did like peace. She was a peaceful person. She had a lot of love for people. But there's a time for peace and there's a time for war. It's just what it is.
Yeah, when people ask me, like sometimes people come to me and they think just because, I was once on the other side that like, oh, why aren't you like more pro peace? Why are you so hardline? Shouldn't you be trying to, build bridges and shit? I'm like, no, because that to me isn't what moral clarity is. Moral clarity isn't sitting there and going, well, both sides. No, like you don't, if this was World War II and we're fighting, Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan, you don't sit there and just say, just both sides got something wrong with it. No, there's a clear, good versus evil. There's a clear good versus evil. And moral clarity is recognizing which one is good and which one is evil and being on the side of good.
Mike, I just watched a video on YouTube of the Allied forces carpet bombing Germany. You can watch real footage of it. I mean, dude, that shit's crazy. That shit's crazy. You just see cities getting just leveled, dude. You just
firestorms.
Bro,
fucking firestorms.
Absolutely eliminated. Just eliminated. Just bombs. Just like popcorn, just falling onto the land. And people have no idea. These kids on college campuses, like, the people have no idea. And they're sitting here talking about Gaza. It's like, you have no idea what that shit is. That's another point of debate. Like, whenever I talk to do any debates with these people, I'm going to be like, we're going to go watch a little video. I want you to see this. I want you to see this. Do you know that your country did this? Do you know that your country that you live in now, that you celebrate, took part in that? But you have a nice, comfortable house because they were willing to make those tough calls.
Now, do you think we fought like a nice war in World War II? Do you think we like handed out pamphlets and brochures to the Nazis?
It was fucking brutal, bro. It was fucking brutal. It was fucking brutal. Like, what do you think America would do, dude? If Mexico did what Hamas did, oh my God, America would just unleash absolute hell on them. Do you have any idea?
It would be New Mexico after that shit.
Oh, America. First of all, there wouldn't be a Mexico anymore. America would take over whatever was left of it. But it would absolutely make Gaza look like a joke.
Oh yeah, and that's the way they would fight you. That's
100%.
if like people always shit on, oh well, Israel has these types of capabilities and this strength, they have this army. Yeah, and guess what? If the other side had that, they'd be doing way worse. Israel is way too nice to these motherfuckers. Like, I asked ChatGPT, all right, if Israel were to fight Gaza the way that Muhammad fought the Jews of Khaybar, what would that look like? All right? Bro, every woman would have been taken captive as a concubine. Boys 13 and up, because that's generally the age where they reach puberty, beheaded. All right? And boys younger than that would be taken in as slaves and servants. Like, y'all just don't understand what war really is and what it takes to truly defeat evil.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's terrible. Listen, it's terrible, but it's part of life. The fact of the matter is if your enemy doesn't clearly understand that it made a mistake, if you don't teach your enemy enough of a lesson, then they're going to be emboldened to do it again. And like this is why this peace plan is probably going to be a terrible idea, unless Bibi has another plan, unless he has another idea. Yeah, I mean, so listen, man, human beings are never going to have everything, you know, unless the Messiah does come. We're always going to be at each other's throats to some degree. But if we're simply talking about the Israeli quote-unquote Palestinian conflict, the Jewish-Muslim conflict, the Jewish-Muslim war, it starts with annexation of Gaza and the West Bank. Like, that's fundamental. Plenty of other things need to be worked on aside from that, but that's the root of it. Like, that is such a major component. Those
Couldn't agree more, man. Couldn't agree more.
They have to happen, because right now what Israel's trying to do is Israel's trying to fix the branches. All these branches are willing, you know, they're dying, and Israel's trying to, you know, patch them up and put them back together, and it's having a really hard time. And some branches are kind of hanging on for dear life, and we keep just if we put the branches back, the tree it'll look better than it was. Meanwhile, the root is rotting away. The root is just, it doesn't have enough moisture. It's not getting enough sunlight. But what do? Let's put more water on the branches. Let's tape the branches. We'll glue them back together. No, the branches are going to fall off eventually. You need to treat the root of the problem. This is what we're doing. We're just medicating, but we're not going to the gym. We're not eating healthy. We're just supplements, drugs, this, that. It's the truth. It's how you got to look at it, because that's what's happening.
I agree, man. I agree. Well, hey, man, that wraps it up for today. Rafi, man, once again, thank you for being here. I'm so honored that I had you as my first guest, bro. Again, this is my dude Rafi from Soothing Semantics, Southern Florida's finest realtor, and as I said before, IDF veteran and somebody that I get to call a personal friend. Rafi, thank you so much, bro.
Such a pleasure, bro. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you stay on after it's done with recording? How does that work?
Let's see, a second. You got to stay on before.